What if the power went out tonight and the temperature dropped below freezing? No furnace, no heater, no electric blanket, just cold. FEMA says millions of Americans lose power every winter, and outages are getting worse. One storm, one accident, and your heat is gone. It's 2 a.m., lights out, phone dead. What do you do? Most homes have nothing. Number 14 on this list could save your life. We're covering 15 heating sources that don't need electricity. These are the ones preppers trust and that vanish first during a crisis. Storms are stronger. Outages last longer. Staying warm isn't optional. It's survival. Stick around. The last two options could be the difference between warm and freezing. Let's go. Number 1. Propane heaters, indoor safe models. Propane heaters are the workhorse of off-grid heating. When the power goes out in the dead of winter, nothing fires up faster or delivers more dependable heat. And there's a reason so many rural Americans still lean on propane. The U.S. Energy Information Administration reports that millions of homes, especially in rural regions, use propane as a primary or secondary heat source because it's reliable, stores well, and stays usable even in sub-zero temperatures. But here's where people get caught off guard. Indoor-safe propane heaters disappear from store shelves the moment a winter storm warning hits. If you've ever tried to buy one during a cold snap, you know the feeling. Empty shelves, back orders, and check again next week signs. When the grid goes down and the temperature plunges, everyone realizes at the same time that they need a secondary heat source. And by then, it's too late. That's why having an indoor-safe propane heater now, while you can still choose the model you want, is a quiet form of insurance. These heaters give you a controlled flame, built-in oxygen depletion sensors, tip-over protection, and the ability to heat a room within minutes. You can keep a small one in a bedroom or a larger one in a living space, and they'll run for hours on a single tank. And here's the best part. Propane is incredibly easy to stockpile. Small 1-pound canisters for short-term heating, or 20 to 100-pound tanks for long-term emergencies. It doesn't degrade, it doesn't spoil, it just waits until you need it. But if you think propane gives you flexibility, wait until you hear number 5, a system that keeps running even when fuel supplies collapse. Number 2, kerosene heaters. Kerosene heaters have been around for generations for one simple reason. They work when nothing else does. They burn incredibly hot, they run for hours on a single tank, and kerosene itself is one of the most reliable fuels you can store. It doesn't gel in freezing temperatures, and when kept sealed, it can remain usable for years. That alone makes it a lifesaver during winter blackouts, and we've already seen what happens when the grid fails in cold weather. During the Texas freeze in February 2021, millions of people lost power for days. According to the Texas Department of State Health Services, over 200 deaths were linked to the storm, many from hypothermia. In that same week, kerosene heaters completely vanished from hardware stores across the state. Online, prices shot up to 2 and 3 times normal retail because desperate families were trying anything to stay warm. Now imagine this. Your neighborhood is freezing. Temperatures in the teens, wind cutting through every crack in the house. Everyone else is huddled under blankets, burning through firewood, or scrambling for batteries. Meanwhile, you've got a kerosene heater humming quietly in the corner, pumping out steady, dependable heat hour after hour. No stress, no panic, just warmth. That's the kind of edge you want in a long-term emergency. And here's the kicker. Kerosene heaters are still legal, still affordable, and still widely available. For now. But once a cold wave hits, or the next grid failure sweeps through, they'll disappear overnight. And if you think kerosene heaters pack a punch, wait until you see what number 6 can do with almost no fuel at all. 3. Wood-burning stoves. When the power goes out and the temperature drops, nothing feels as reassuring as the crackle of real firewood. A wood-burning stove gives you more than just heat. It gives you independence. You can cook on it, dry out wet clothes, warm an entire room, and unlike propane or diesel, you're not dependent on a factory, a refinery, or a supply chain. As long as you can split wood, you can stay warm. But here's the problem. Regulations are tightening fast. The EPA has been updating emission standards for residential wood heaters for years, and several states, including Washington, Oregon, and parts of New York, have begun limiting or even banning older, non-certified wood stoves. Some counties now require you to remove old stoves before selling a home. And newer, EPA-approved models? They can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, depending on size and efficiency. That's a heavy hit for families trying to prepare on a budget. And we've seen why these stoves matter. According to FEMA, more than 70% of rural households rely on wood as a secondary heat source. During extended blackouts or major winter storms, many families survive because they have a wood stove to fall back on. Think about the ice storms in the Midwest. While neighborhoods sat in the dark for days, the only warm houses were the ones running on firewood. Picture this. It's 10 degrees outside, the grid is down, and your furnace is nothing more than a metal box. But your wood stove? It's roaring, giving you steady heat hour after hour. No electricity required. If you've ever considered installing one, this is the year to do it, before the next round of rules, restrictions, or price hikes lands in your lap. And stick around, because the next heating option works even when you're out of wood. 4. Pellet stoves, battery or manual ignition. Pellet stoves are one of those heating systems people overlook, until the power goes out, and they realize just how efficient these things really are. Pellets burn hotter, cleaner, and far more consistently than traditional firewood. And because they're made from compressed sawdust and wood waste, they're one of the most fuel-efficient heat sources you can stockpile. Here's what makes them so powerful. A single 40-pound bag of pellets can keep the average stove burning for up to 24 hours. That means one weekend of freezing temperatures could be handled with just 2 or 3 bags. And pellets themselves are easy to store, stack, and transport. They don't attract pests, they don't mold easily, and they don't require a woodshed or chopping block. But here's the catch. Most pellet stoves need electricity to run their augers and fans. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, nearly all standard models require power to operate safely. That's why preppers specifically look for stoves with battery backups or manual gravity feed designs that keep heat flowing even when the grid is dead. And during emergencies, that matters. After the 2021 Texas freeze, sales of off-grid pellet systems surged as families realized how quickly the grid can fail. Imagine being the only warm house on a frozen street. Steady heat, almost no smoke, and fuel that lasts longer than anything else you can store. When you can keep your home warm for days with nothing more than a few bags of pellets and a reliable off-grid stove, that's real freedom. And speaking of long-lasting heat, number 5 is the one most people completely forget about, but it's a lifesaver in extreme cold. 5. Portable butane heaters. Butane heaters don't get nearly the attention they deserve, and that's surprising, because for off-grid heating, they're one of the most efficient and user-friendly options out there. If you've ever camped in early spring or late fall, you've probably seen people using these little heaters to stay warm when temperatures dip into the 30s. They're compact, they're quiet, and they ignite instantly without the heavy fumes you get from kerosene or propane. Here's the part most folks don't realize. Butane burns incredibly clean. According to the EPA, butane is one of the lowest emission portable fuels available, which is why so many indoor safe cooking stoves and heaters are designed around it. And while you always need ventilation, just like with any combustion heater, butane tends to produce fewer contaminants compared to older liquid fuel heaters. A single standard 8-ounce canister typically runs a heater for 2 to 4 hours, depending on the model and how high you set the output. That might not sound like much, until you realize how easy they are to stockpile. Dozens of canisters fit in a small tote or storage bin, and unlike propane tanks, they don't take over your whole garage. And during disasters, these things disappear fast. After the 2021-2022 winter storms in the Northeast, several outdoor retailers reported spikes in demand for butane heaters and canisters. Some stores were literally wiped out in a matter of hours. People wanted something small, safe, and ready to go, and butane fit the bill. Picture this. The power goes out at 2 a.m., the house is dropping below 50 degrees, and everyone's shivering. You pull out one of these compact heaters, pop in a canister, and within minutes the room feels livable again. No fuss, no giant tanks, no wrestling with damp firewood. And if you think butane is convenient, wait until number 6, because it's the one heat source you can use almost anywhere, without worrying about fuel at all. 6. Alcohol stoves and heaters. Alcohol stoves are one of those old-school survival tools that never really went away, because they work in situations where almost nothing else does. Denatured alcohol, marine alcohol, or even clean-burning fuels like ethanol gel have one huge advantage. They burn clean, and they store practically forever. That's why you'll still find alcohol heaters on boats, in remote cabins, and in emergency kits designed for long-term reliability. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, alcohol-based stoves are still considered one of the safest flame-producing heat sources for marine environments. The reason? They produce minimal carbon monoxide compared to other liquid fuels when used properly with ventilation. And in a crisis, that peace of mind matters. Now, no one's claiming alcohol heaters will turn a freezing room into a sauna. But that's not the point. In a small bedroom, bathroom, or enclosed shelter space, the difference they make is dramatic. Picture a cold snap or power outage where indoor temperatures drop into the 40s. That kind of cold keeps you awake, stiff, and miserable. You light an alcohol heater, and suddenly the air feels softer, warmer, comfortable enough to sleep without your teeth chattering. They're also silent. No roaring flames, no clicking igniters, no fan noise. Just a steady, reliable burn. Backpackers have relied on them for decades for that exact reason. Simple design, no moving parts, and fuel that you can store in tiny containers without worrying about leaks or pressure. And here's something most people don't realize. During winter storms, denatured alcohol disappears off store shelves fast. Hardware stores and marine suppliers often report spikes in sales when temperatures crash or when hurricanes knock out power. If you need a backup heat source that's small, safe, and nearly impossible to break, an alcohol stove belongs in your kit. And number 7 takes silent heat to a whole new level. No flame required at all. 7. Charcoal and clay pot heaters. Emergency use only. Alright, let's get real about charcoal and clay pot heaters. You've probably seen those DIY flower pot heater videos online, and they look like a clever hack. A couple of clay pots, a charcoal tray, and suddenly you've got warmth. And yes, they can produce heat. But here's the hard truth. Charcoal produces carbon monoxide when burned, and carbon monoxide is odorless, colorless, and deadly. Every year in the US, hundreds die and thousands end up in the ER because of unintentional CO poisoning, often from indoor charcoal burns, portable heaters, or generators being used incorrectly. That clever heater might warm the room, but it might also kill you while you sleep, without warning. So yes, a charcoal plus clay pot setup can generate a surprising amount of warmth, but only if you use it exactly as intended, outside, in open air, with no enclosed space around it. A garage with an open door might work. A tent, a basement, or a closed living room? Absolutely not. Now imagine a blackout hits, the nights get bitterly cold, and people get desperate. Someone rigging that flower pot heater in their living room could think they're clever, until that invisible gas sneaks in and steals their life. I've seen how quickly desperation changes judgment. If you choose to include a charcoal clay pot heater in your prepping arsenal, treat it like what it is, a last resort, outdoor-only emergency tool, and only use it when you're confident there's proper ventilation. Otherwise, you're gambling with your family's safety. Next up, number 8. A portable heater that gives you real, safe warmth indoors, with far less risk. 8. Catalytic heaters. Catalytic heaters are one of those off-grid gems most people walk right past at the store without realizing what they're looking at. These things create heat without a visible flame, which feels almost like cheating physics. Instead of burning propane with an open flame, they use a catalytic reaction on a heated surface. The result? Silent, steady, radiant warmth that's incredibly fuel efficient. According to data referenced by the U.S. Department of Energy, catalytic heaters can operate at up to 90% efficiency, which means almost all the fuel you put in is converted directly into heat rather than being wasted up a chimney or burner. That's why RV owners, cabin dwellers, and hunters swear by them. A small propane cylinder can keep one of these running for hours, and because they produce such low emissions, many models are approved for indoor use with proper ventilation. And that's the part that really matters in a blackout. When the furnace dies and everyone else is wrapped in coats, you've got a heater that's light enough to carry anywhere, doesn't roar like a jet engine, and doesn't burn through fuel like a traditional propane heater. FEMA has repeatedly warned that winter storms are now the leading cause of prolonged cold weather outages in the U.S., with millions losing heat for days at a time. In that kind of situation, a heater that sips propane instead of gulping it becomes a lifesaver. Literally. Picture this. It's 18 degrees, the power's been out for 2 nights, and the house feels like a refrigerator. You fire up your catalytic heater, and within minutes, the room starts to warm. No noise, no stress, just heat you can depend on. And if you think this is efficient, wait until you see number 9, one of the lowest maintenance backup heat sources on this list. Number 9, rocket stoves. Rocket stoves are one of those tools that make you wonder why more people haven't stocked them already. They're simple, lightweight, and astonishingly efficient. All you need is tiny sticks, twigs, or scrap wood, and you've got a fire that burns hotter than almost any traditional wood setup. In fact, the U.S. Department of Energy highlights that rocket stoves are designed for near-complete combustion, meaning you get maximum heat from minimal fuel. That's exactly why preppers love them. They can heat a small space quickly without spending hours chopping and hauling wood. Picture this. Winter has knocked out your power, and outside it's below freezing. Most neighbors are bundled under blankets, trying to warm their hands on a tiny space heater. You, on the other hand, have a rocket stove quietly humming in your corner. It heats the room fast, and the smoke venting is minimal because of the stove's efficient design. You can even cook a hot meal on it at the same time. No separate stove, no wasted fuel. FEMA reports that during winter power outages, heating failures are the leading cause of cold-related injuries. Having a small, portable stove that can double as a cooking source isn't just convenient, it's life-saving. The best part? Fuel is practically free. Fallen branches, twigs from your yard, or scraps from a construction project are all you need. In emergencies, when conventional fuels are gone or skyrocketing in price, a rocket stove keeps you warm and fed with almost nothing. And stick around, because number 10 on our list is one of the quietest, most efficient heat sources you can use indoors without any flame at all. 10. Solar air heaters. Solar air heaters are one of the quietest, most low-maintenance ways to keep a home warm during a crisis. Whether you build a simple DIY version or buy a professionally designed panel, these systems work by capturing sunlight and circulating warm air into your living space. The best part? No electricity, no fuel, no open flames, just free heat from the sun. The U.S. Department of Energy notes that solar air heating can reduce conventional heating costs by up to 50% in well-designed systems, and in a blackout scenario, that translates directly into independence. Imagine a cold winter day after the power goes out. Your neighbors are cranking inefficient portable heaters or burning wood in their fireplace, while you've got sunlight streaming through a panel on the south-facing wall. That captured energy quietly warms your home, stretching the life of whatever fuel you've stockpiled. And for people in rural areas, FEMA has reported that winter storms often leave homes without heat for days. A solar air heater isn't going to replace a propane or wood stove at night, but during the day, it keeps rooms comfortably warm and reduces the need to burn through your stored fuel too quickly. These systems are also remarkably simple. Most DIY setups use basic aluminum panels, a fan powered by a small solar cell, and ducting to push warm air into rooms. Commercial panels can provide consistent airflow for larger spaces, making them ideal for cabins, workshops, or even small homes. If you're serious about off-grid preparedness, a solar air heater isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a fuel-stretching lifesaver. And number 11? It's the ultimate combination of heat and mobility, perfect for emergencies anywhere. 11. Solar thermal water systems. One thing preppers often overlook is just how much warm water equals comfort, safety, and morale during a prolonged outage. A solar thermal water system can do exactly that. Capture sunlight to heat water for showers, washing dishes, or even feeding into a radiant floor or space heating system. The U.S. Department of Energy reports that solar thermal systems can provide 50 to 70% of a household's hot water needs in sunny climates. And even in winter, properly insulated panels can deliver a steady supply of warm water. In an off-grid emergency, That's a huge advantage. Picture this. The power has been out for 48 hours. The nights are freezing, everyone's clothes are stiff with cold, and morale is dropping fast. You step into a warm shower thanks to your solar thermal system, and it's like hitting a reset button. Small comforts like this aren't luxuries, they're mental survival tools. FEMA notes that maintaining hygiene during prolonged outages is critical not just for health, but for psychological well-being, especially in cold months when illness and fatigue set in quickly. Even if you don't have radiant heating, a solar thermal water setup can feed a simple heat exchanger or storage tank, giving you the option to warm a small room. And unlike electric water heaters, these systems keep producing heat without drawing power from the grid, meaning your stockpiled fuels stay untouched for when you really need them. In short, solar thermal systems combine practicality, comfort, and energy independence. And if you thought that was good, number 12 takes off-grid heating to a whole new level of mobility and convenience. Emergency mylar and body heat systems. Here's a survival tip most people ignore. During cold emergencies, your body is often losing heat faster than you realize. Poor insulation, gaps under doors, and thin walls mean that even a warm room can feel icy. This is where mylar blankets and body heat systems come in. Mylar reflects up to 90% of your body heat back toward you, according to studies referenced by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Combine a mylar blanket with a sleeping bag, heavy blanket, or even layers of clothing, and suddenly a freezing room becomes survivable. These systems are cheap, lightweight, and incredibly portable. That's why they're a staple in emergency kits and recommended by NOAA for winter storm preparedness. Think of it this way. A family stranded during a power outage or blizzard can huddle together under a few mylar blankets, and the combined warmth from their bodies, reflected efficiently, can prevent hypothermia while they wait for help. Hypothermia is a leading cause of cold-related injuries during outages and natural disasters, and every degree of warmth counts. The beauty of these systems is simplicity. No fuel, no electricity, no complicated setup. You can throw a few blankets and mylar sheets into your car, cabin, or basement, and they're ready to use the moment temperatures drop. In fact, FEMA emphasizes that these low-tech solutions are often more effective in short-term survival situations than elaborate heating systems. If you thought heat saving was complicated, mylar and body heat systems prove that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most life-saving. And coming up next, number 13 might just change how you stockpile for winter emergencies entirely. 13. Hot water bottles and thermal bricks. Sometimes, the simplest solutions are the most effective, and hot water bottles or thermal bricks prove it. It sounds almost too basic, but during winter outages, this old-school method can literally save lives. Boil water over a propane stove, wood stove, or even a camping burner. Pour it into insulated bottles, wrap them in a towel, and place them in your bed or sleeping area. The warmth lasts for hours, and in extreme situations, people have survived entire winters relying primarily on this technique. FEMA and NOAA both recommend portable heat sources like hot water bottles as part of winter emergency kits, especially when conventional heating fails. Thermal bricks work on the same principle. Heat them in a safe fire or stove, then wrap them and use them to warm beds, chairs, or even small rooms. They're lightweight, reusable, and incredibly reliable when electricity is out or fuel is low. During the Texas freeze of 2021, power outages left millions without heat for days, and households that combined simple strategies, like hot water bottles, mylar blankets, and stoves, reportedly stayed warm enough to prevent cold-related illnesses. Hypothermia and frostbite become real risks when the temperature drops below freezing indoors, and even a few hours of added warmth can make the difference between comfort and danger. The genius of this method is its simplicity and accessibility. You don't need specialized equipment, expensive fuel, or complicated instructions. It's portable, versatile, and almost foolproof, perfect for beds, cars, tents, or small spaces. If you've been looking for a no-frills, dependable way to stay warm when everything else fails, hot water bottles and thermal bricks are must-have essentials in any emergency heating plan. 14. Hand warmers and chemical heat packs. Sometimes, the smallest tools make the biggest difference. Hand warmers and chemical heat packs have quietly become a prepper favorite, and for good reason. These little packets can provide 8 to 12 hours of consistent heat, cost just a few dollars, and have a shelf life of several years when stored properly. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security lists chemical heat packs as recommended items in cold weather emergency kits, especially for situations where traditional heating fails. Imagine a prolonged blackout during a deep freeze. The power is out, stoves are cold, and fuel is limited. In moments like these, hand warmers can be the difference between numb fingers and the ability to prepare food, start a fire, or simply keep moving. FEMA notes that maintaining body heat is crucial not only for physical survival, but for mental resilience. Morale often drops quickly when people feel helpless and cold. Holding a warm pack in your hands or slipping one into a glove can boost both comfort and confidence. These packs are also versatile and portable. Keep a few in your pockets while hiking or walking to a neighbor's house, stash extras in your car, or toss them in your emergency kits. Unlike larger heat sources, they don't require fuel, electricity, or ventilation, making them completely safe for indoor use. In short, when every other heat source is limited, chemical heat packs quietly save fingers, toes, and spirits. In a survival scenario, that small burst of warmth might be just what keeps you alert, capable, and ready for the next challenge. 15. Thermal curtains and heat retention setups. Here's a tip many people overlook. You don't always need more heat. You just need to keep the heat you already have. Thermal curtains and heat retention setups are simple, yet incredibly effective. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, properly insulated window treatments can raise indoor temperatures by 5 to 15 degrees by reducing heat loss through windows, which are often the biggest culprits for cold drafts. In a winter outage, that difference can mean the line between shivering and staying warm. Think about it. You've got a propane heater, wood stove, or even a hot water bottle in your room. Without thermal curtains, half of that warmth escapes through thin windows overnight. Add in thick blankets, draft stoppers, and strategically placed furniture, and suddenly your small room becomes a mini fortress against the cold. FEMA highlights that low-cost insulation methods like these are recommended during emergencies because they're safe, energy efficient, and don't require electricity. The beauty of thermal curtains is that they're passive, silent, and reusable. Unlike fuel-based heat, there's no worry about running out or dangerous emissions. Even if your primary heat source is limited, combining it with heat retention strategies maximizes every BTU you produce. In off-grid or blackout scenarios, these setups are game changers, turning survival-level warmth into genuine comfort. So, while thermal curtains may not generate heat on their own, they amplify everything else on this list. Pair them with any stove, heater, or hot water system, and you've created an environment where you're not just surviving the cold, you're thriving through it.